Okay, in this second segment of the online mini tutorial on publics and urban space, we move on to Ash Amin, who is a very prominent geographer at the University of Cambridge who has worked extensively on urban issues. I think you will find his take maybe a bit challenging to read, but it's certainly worthwhile to read closely and to try and understand the aim of his article, which is to challenge the view prevalent in public debate and much academic literature about the inherently good nature of public space. Or put more specifically, Amin is critical of the idea that you can somehow measure a society's democratic culture in how its public spaces are used by its publics. So a first question you can keep in mind when reading his article is, how does Amin criticize this positive view on the emancipatory or liberating and democratic capability of public space? And why is this view problematic when it comes to urban planners and urban designers and leaders in urban governance? How does Amin criticize this view? The next step, of course, is to ask then, what should we instead be looking at? What is missing from the analysis that Amin wants us to pay attention to? Now, he starts his article by identifying his research with a daunting word: post-humanist. What does post-humanist mean in the context of this article and this research? What is it beyond the human that Amin thinks we need to take into direct consideration in order to understand cities? Now, this is perhaps not an easy question to answer unless you are already familiar with post-structuralism in urban studies. So I will give here a very, very brief and perhaps, and I apologize for that, a somewhat simplistic background here on two tendencies that are similar and overlapping with Amin's project in this article. So these approaches are actor network theory and assemblage urbanism. Now, as part of a broader critique of Marxist approaches to cities, actor network theory, or ANT, is, roughly speaking, the analytical viewpoint that everything, people, nature, things, ideas, processes, exist in constantly shifting networks of relationship, and that this also includes non-human actants or actors, basically anything other than humans or apart from humans. So this particular understanding entails that instead of putting humans and human society and structure at the center of the analysis, agency is distributed across the social and material world. In this perception, there can be no external, pre-existing social forces and structures outside of a social situation. And for this reason, ANT is mostly used for strict empirical analysis. Indeed, theory in ANT is used for describing, not explaining, social activity and phenomena. And as a methodology, ANT tells the researcher to forget about the context, follow the actors, listen to them. ANT is very much associated with the French philosopher Bruno Latour and is prominent within STS, or Science and Technology Studies, where it has been used to great benefit to show how different actors are pulled together in networks. So in extension, or as an addition perhaps to ANT, a recent wave of urban research has worked within or around what is labeled as assemblage urbanism. This is inspired by another post-structuralist French philosopher, namely Gilles Deleuze, and particularly his concept of agencement, which probably should have been translated as arrangement, but has ended up known as assemblage in English language literature. Again, like actor network theory, assemblage is not so much interested in giving ready-made ideological explanations of the inequalities hierarchies, and power structures underpinning cities. Instead, assemblage theorists are more interested in describing how nature, society, and technology intersects, overlaps, blends, and joins in new assemblages that constantly evolve in and around and through cities. So, if we return to the Amin article, which I will argue is very much in the same vein as ANT and assemblage urbanism, one way to understand the implications of these perspectives is to focus on Amin's concept of situated surplus or situated multiplicity. Note that he shifts between these two terms, and it's not completely clear if they mean something different, but we take it here as one concept. How does Amin describe the condition of situated multiplicity or surplus? What kind of resonances, or maybe we can just call them consequences, does this condition have for the nature of social and civic practice? Or put more simply, and I use another word that I really like from this text, is thrown togetherness. How does this thrown togetherness of public space in cities impact on urban culture? So as I have already said in the beginning of this video, these may not be the easiest texts, but I think they are important because they raise some very fundamental questions about urban life and urban culture. And I hope you will take your time to read them and that you'll have fun thinking with these articles.